And I see number 3 on this platform is in capital letters, tax the rich.
Right.
We've been talking about that a little bit with the Occupy Everywhere stories that we're seeing, in all media right now. When you say tax the rich, what are you saying? Describe it in some detail.
Okay, well, I would recommend that people check out Robert Reich's book, Aftershock. It's his most recent book, just came out in paper. And in it, he shows how since 1980, I believe it's the top 1%, has acquired almost twice as much, percentage-wise, of the nation's wealth as it had in 1980. And what you see is a percentage of wealth owned by the entire rest of the population, all the workers of the nation, has dropped. So what has happened is that the rich have, like a vacuum cleaner, sucked up the buying power of the middle class. And that's why the economy is tanking. And until that money gets back out into the middle class, there aren't going to be any jobs created, because jobs are created by demand. I think the rich owe us for all of the damage that they have benefited from over the years. And I have no problem going back to Eisenhower's 92% upper tax rate. Now, there are to pay for this conversion, which one estimate is about $2 or $3 trillion total. I have other sources for the funds as well. So it's tax the rich. It's to retreat the empire, not just end the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, but actually pull back from those 150 nations where we have bases, and to end the war on drugs. So those are the 3 sources of funds that I see available for us. And I think most Americans, maybe not the war on drugs, but most Americans can get behind the idea that we should only be using our military and the money we pay for our military to protect Americans and their property here, not to protect spheres of influence for corporations.
Well, and a big part of that I see that has to be dealt with is what do you do with the virtual army, the private contractors, the ones that because we've privatized our military expenditures to a great extent, where what used to be done by U.S. forces is now done by corporations that are hired by the U.S. government.
Well, one of the tools we have is that all of these things require energy, and in that sense money, which means if we cut off the funds, then they aren't there. And I think that's one of the things that I can do just as a lone person, is I can make the case that these are ridiculous expenditures, especially when everybody's suffering. I mean, when SSI has been reduced from the state portion that's funded over $80 in the last few years, I started seeing more of my friends losing their teeth, friends with broken glasses. And I'm sure because of the reduction in mental services, there have probably been more suicides. So I see literally who is killed and whose lives are ruined when they have these budget cuts. And the fact that we're spending, they call it the $3 trillion war. We can spend $3 trillion for a bogus war that kills 1 million people, but we can't do it to save our country and our planet? That's ridiculous. So that's the argument I'll make. And so every time one of these budgets comes up, I will be just going after it ferociously and informing the rest of the country about it.
Well, good enough. And then reading farther down the list here, well, we've touched on the military, but corporate personhood. But can I just take a moment to say how much I appreciated that line that somebody put out last week about, I'll believe corporations are humans when Texas executes one of them?
Right. Well, for me, if you can't be thrown in jail, you can't be a person.
Right. Yeah. Well, but what about it? I mean, this is tied directly to what you're describing, but what methods could be employed in your mind to abolish corporate personhood?
Well, there's, of course, move to amend, the constitutional amendment, which I fully support. Well, I don't know if there's something specifically we can do legislation-wise, but we can certainly amplify the message. I mean, with the move to amend, we have to get, 37 states to pass it, to amend it. So
that's a tall order right now.
Yeah, and there's a big education effort that has to happen. But every time something happens where the corporations get away with something that people couldn't get away with, that's when we have to jump on them and just point it out every time. Someone
locally recently said that another way to go at it would be to do non-binding resolutions. In other words, you could gauge public opinion.
I like that.
And without any retribution by government. I mean, because we're entitled to speak our mind. And if it was a non-binding resolution, it wouldn't have any formal influence, but it could over time have influence simply by showing the will of the people.
Absolutely. I heard that was it last week when you guys were talking about it.
No.
Yeah, we kind of did that with the nuclear freeze movement.
Right.
We couldn't stop nuclear weapons from being made, but we could make a statement. And nuclear free zones, remember that when all these towns and
Arcata
regions.
was at the forefront of that.
Yeah, I mean,
time.
you do what you can, but the point is we have to start to mobilize ourselves and get focused. And that's why I have these proposals. Dennis is looking at my flyer, and I have this list of proposals I call New Green America. And this is because I am running outside of the Green Party context. If you're a Green Party candidate, you're kind of, well, not necessarily bound, but you're expected to support the Green Party platform. Well, if you're not running in the Green Party, how do folks know that they can trust you to be doing the same kind of thing? So what I've done is taken the major issues that progressives and liberals and libertarians and all kinds of people have been fighting or fighting against and fighting for, depending upon what it is, and put them together in a set of proposals. So you can go, called New Green America, so you can go to any independent and say, how many of these do you support? Do you support fighting for the climate as threat number one? Do you support rebuilding of America's infrastructure around bioregions and sustainability? How about ending the empire, or are you just for ending the two wars? So this is a way that other candidates can be supported the closer they are to this sort of green perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's talk for a moment about the campaign itself. It's, we have a lot of candidates for this seat, and to my way of thinking, it's way early. I realize that as a candidate, it's not, but as a voter having to listen to the candidates, I wonder, how are we going to get through this for the next 9 months? What's your strategy? What's your plan for building a campaign between now and June?
Well, again, going back to 2006 when I started thinking about this margin organizing, I was at the point where I realized that all of the other options for dealing with the climate were closed. You had both Clinton and Obama, who are basically preventing any international treaties from being signed, and Bush, of course, just abandoned it. So the international pressure is not going to change the United States' behavior. During the Bush administration, to their amazing credit, hundreds of this country's governors and mayors came together to form an organization to reduce the fossil fuels despite the Bush administration. However, despite the great work they're doing, and in some places they're going to be fossil fuel emission free in 10 years, 2020, that's great. But you look at what actually has to happen, and, I'm presuming, I should have said something earlier, which is the reason I'm doing this is because there are ways of measuring the urgency of the climate crisis. In 1990, David Suzuki reports that the United States EPA, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the Woods Hole Research Institute came out with reports about how much we had to reduce our fossil fuel emissions and how fast. And all three of them came out with numbers between 55 and 80% by 2000 or 2005. Now, instead, we went up. And since that time, we've learned that these estimates underestimated it.
Right.
Well, just because we didn't respond doesn't mean the deadline still isn't 80% by 2005, right, which is why I'm claiming we have to do it as fast as humanly possible. We're way past the deadline. Let's see. So what was the other part?
Well, we were trying to describe your efforts over the next 9 months. What kind of campaign are you building? We're running down to the bottom of the hour, so okay. I wanted to make sure people knew how to connect with your campaign.
Well, they can connect with me at caffreyforcongress.org or at Facebook. But the way I can win and the way I will win is combining grassroots organizing with the net roots to reach as many people, say with my web videos, as I would reach if I had $1 million and bought TV time. Mm-hmm. So that's the goal. Can we reach as many people with our own organizing and the internet as the millionaires can reach? So my campaign is built around that kind of a project, which is why I've spent so much time on the internet and people haven't seen me going around here. And I've hired a team of professional consultants called Triumph Political, and they did a poll for me, and we've just done we're about to do a second one. And in the poll, it shows that I'm in third place. It's an interesting poll. It's the first poll done of the new 2nd District voters. And it's who you would vote for now. And of course, a large number are undecided. 82% are undecided. So the numbers are pretty small, and they don't really mean a lot, but they do kind of show a few things. One, Jared Huffman's first place, but he only has 9% of the vote. Now, he's the assemblyman for the whole southern part of the district, so 250,000 people know about him. So he should be getting much higher than 9%. He's getting less than 1 out of 5 voters who know him. Second place is Susan Adams with 3%. I'm in third with 2%. Norman Solomon's in fourth with 1%. Stacey Lawson and Tiffany Renee fifth with tied at 0.5%. Now, that's pretty interesting because I already have more support than Norman Solomon does with his 200,000 votes, $200,000, and I'm just now making my extension into the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then to be fair, we have to mention that since this poll, there's been a Republican candidate that stepped forward. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's a total of 8. 6 of them are from south of Santa Rosa. So I'm the only one with any activist experience up here from north of Santa Rosa. So I consider myself the North Coast choice. And then you have Dr. Courtney, who's also from up here.
Oh, right. And he's not listed here on this.
Yeah, the poll was done before he came in.
Okay. Well, we're all but there, Andy. Let's give last words and give people the information so that they can keep track of your activities and join you if they're so desiring.
Yeah, well, I am planning to set up these community meetings where we start to work on legislation. So if you're interested in hosting me for that, give me a call at 923-2114. And my website is different from anybody else's. Instead of just listing how I feel about issues, and I do have my position on over 100 issues up there, I'm also going to educate people about why I have those positions. So I have videos up of Lester Brown talking about the need to reduce fossil fuel emissions, Naomi Klein, shock doctrine, John Perkins, economic hitman. So you can learn all kinds of things there, and that's part of the process. I'll have videos up about corporate personhood, legalizing marijuana, and the rest of it. And the other thing is, regarding marijuana, I am a 215 patient. So I'm going to be fighting for my right to take my medicine in D.C., and that makes me unique among the candidates. And I am willing to get arrested as a congressman in D.C. to get the medical marijuana message out there and to keep it strong.
Well, by the looks of the federal government, you might get that chance, Andy.
Yeah. So the website is Caffrey, that's Caffrey, for Congress.org. And I look forward to seeing you at those meetings.
We've been speaking with Andy Caffrey, congressional candidate for the newly formed 2nd District. One of many candidates. We're glad that you took time to come on the air and let us know how you're looking at this race, Andy. And we look forward to having you back before the election.
Thank you very much, Dennis. My pleasure.
Take care. We're going to hand it over to Mary Ann, and we're going to let her take care of KMUD's business, and then we'll be back with a conversation about supporting our local schools.